So let's delve into a chest, back, and legs workout that I had performed and recorded this morning. I've got it pulled up on screen. Just gonna pop on my headphones and give you the deepest insights possible into the nature of this workout. Why certain T's are crossed, why certain I's are dotted. For the first 3 years or so of my lifting career that started about a decade ago, I didn't make the greatest gains possible. I got stronger, I engaged the neurological adaptations, and that was good and well. But what I found is that my physique didn't really change appreciably. And it wasn't that I wasn't trying. I was rowing as hard as possible. It's just that I was in the wrong boat. And I want to help you get in a better boat so that your effort isn't all for naught. I think that was one of my greatest fears when I started lifting, was that I was cut from an inferior cloth. And so I was a freshman in college at the time, and I can just remember these really jacked jocks at the gym there, football players, lacrosse players, and I just always felt like I wasn't going to be able to light a candle to the performance and the physiques that they boasted. But what I found is that once I actually started applying myself properly and really integrating optimized hypertrophy training principles into my routine, that the next year of results that I got was actually better than the 3 preceding. And that's really my goal for you, is to help you do in 2 years what took me 10. So I'm going to pop these on and let's watch this together. So we got the guillotine press. Finally, I'm exemplifying this properly for you. So I don't like to conventionally bench press. This is a guillotine press, a really wide grip. And notice how high up on the chest that I am lowering here. Very, very important to optimize the upper chest development, and so that your under pecs don't overwhelm the uppers. This is the number one, the most critical exercise that you could perform for your chest. And what I'm doing is I'm supersetting that with an exaggerated wide grip pull up here. You can see I'm using a dip belt. I'm using the brand RDX. There's a ton of really good brands out there. Just make sure you do research, get one that's highly reviewed and is actually going to be robust and durable for you. Just included a few different angles here for you, just to give you a sense of how exaggerated of a grip that it is. It's about 25 pounds of added weight that I've got. The pull-up is a really great strength to weight ratio litmus test, if you will. So once you can start adding weight, that is a really good indicator just of your overall strength relative to your body weight.
Example of training the muscles and not the movements. So I'm supersetting a guillotine bench press, which you'll basically see nobody doing in the gym because it's not mechanically advantageous. I don't have an arch in my back. I'm just training with a flat back, and I'm taking out the legs. I'm not using leg drive, and I'm just lowering as high up on the chest as possible. And then I'm supersetting that right now with some of these wide grip pull-ups. And this is another good example of an exercise that is not in any way, shape, or form mechanically advantageous, right? If I wanted to max out, just crank on that bar, I would take a more narrow grip, I would do a reverse grip, and I would just do some chins. I wouldn't do the wide grip pull up. But in this case, I'm just trying to maximize the recruitment of the lats, and I don't necessarily care about how much I'm lifting per se. I'm just adopting that optimized form and then improving from there.
So just supersetting again, back and forth here, back to the guillotine press. You probably haven't seen a ton of people performing this before, just given how exaggerated of a wide grip it is and how high up on the chest, almost to the bottom of the neck, that it's being lowered to. Definitely are going to want to drop weight on this if you are used to conventionally bench pressing, and that's perfectly fine. Just showing you how close I go to failure here, especially without a spotter. Just be careful. Back to the wide grip pull-ups here. Subsequent sets, you're not going to get that same performance as on the top set, but just make sure that you're tracking the progress on that first set as a gauge of progress over time, overall strength, which is a good proxy for overall muscle mass as well. So you can see here, sometimes I'll have my feet up on the bench. Right now I'm just keeping them on the floor, but I'm making sure that they are crossed and not contributing in any way, shape, or form to the actual trajectory of the barbell. I'm keeping the same weight in subsequent sets. You can always drop if you have to. Just another different angle here for you. Again, just really emphasizing a controlled eccentric and as explosive as possible of a concentric. This is a pretty good weight for me. I'm not able to be incredibly explosive, but it's a good amount of time under tension and a good weight for me at this point.
Just wrapped my first superset. I was doing some chest and back, and now I'm going to be doing my first superset of legs, and I'm going to be supersetting actually seated leg curls. This is something that I recently swapped up. Initially, I'd been doing some lying leg curls because I could not get this machine right here to actually feel good. Ergonomics is so key to just actually adopting a form that feels good that you're going to be able to stick with. And I finally got this to feel really good with my torso leaned forward. So I'll record that in just a second. But ideally, if you can do seated leg curls, that will be superior to the lying ones from a hypertrophy perspective. Again, not mechanically advantageous, but it will be optimal for promoting muscular hypertrophy.
Yeah, so just real quick, I had misspoken there. That's my bad. So for legs, I just prefer to do straight sets. You can feel free to superset these with a leg press or a hack squat or a barbell squat, high bar squat, whatever the case may be for you. But in my case, I'm really just doing 3 sets of each. I'm really just trying to maintain my leg mass at this point in my bodybuilding journey. If you find that supersetting helps you be more efficient and equipment availability isn't an issue, that's just the biggest thing that I would worry about. You know, sometimes power racks or Smith machines are just very, very popular and difficult to come by. And so it's sometimes difficult to actually superset these exercises. But if that's something that you're able to do, then go for it. Again, just a different angle here for you. I believe I hit 13 reps on my top set. It's about as high as I'd like to go on these. But yeah, if you can get really dialed in on these with a seated leg curl, definitely recommended over lying. I've been doing lying for the past couple of months, but I'm getting much better activation with that seated leg curl here. So that was my 3 sets, and then now I'm moving on here to a hack squat, and I'm just going to be warming up with 1 plate, with 2 plates, and then my top set will be with 2 plates and a 10 kg added to each side. So it'll be 100 kg total. And this is just me doing my first warm-up set here, just really focusing on the range of motion and getting as deep as possible into that bottom position, and really emphasizing the eccentric without offloading the quads, without going so low that the safety pins get in the way. And I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes.
One key aspect of squatting and setting the safety pin properly is to make sure that it doesn't compromise your range of motion. And what I mean by that is you can see this safety setup here and just how adjustable it is. For my particular flexibility, and this is just going to be very individualized. I'm going to set that to the bottom position, but what I want to make sure is that at the very bottom of my eccentric here, that I'm not being limited by the safety pin. I don't want to actually offload the tension. I want my time under tension to be continuous, and in the bottom portion of my squat, I don't want to be outsourcing that to the safety pin. So this could apply to if you're doing Smith machine squats. Just make sure that you're setting the pin just below the bottom of that eccentric position.
Yeah, so just be careful on that. Again, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination the most flexible person in the world, but for whatever reason on squats, I am able to get very, very deep. If you're not able to do that, don't set the safety pin to the bottom position like I am. Set it one position below the point that you're squatting to. And this is my top set here. This is 100 kg, and I believe I hit this for 9, which I was really, really pleased about. Again, tracking your progress on that first set is really the best metric for assessing strength gains and, by extension, muscle mass accrual over time. Brutal, man, brutal. So again, just a couple of different angles for you, just to give you a more comprehensive 3D perspective here. But again, the big thing being, don't be one of these people who puts on like 5 or 6 plates onto the leg press and then they're doing quarter reps. These people, as you've probably noticed, don't necessarily have the greatest quad development, and that's because they're not getting the greatest quad activation. So start with optimized form, never compromise on that, starting with a lower weight and then work your way up, but never at the sacrifice or the detriment of that 100% 10 out of 10 form that you should be starting with. So we're just working some calves here. No glory in this game, let's be honest. It's not necessarily a fun muscle group to work, and the calves are very tough to grow because the baseline stimulus that they're exposed to is very, very high every time you take a step. So it's something that really requires a ton of volume if you're serious about growing your calves. I'm really just maintaining them. I'm just doing 4 sets here, but notice the tempo. I'm going really deep in that stretched position. Notice my foot positioning there. I'm exploding up as fast as I can. And then I'm pausing at the top, really squeezing. And then a controlled eccentric. And I'm keeping tension on them right there in the stretched position. Exploding up as fast as I can. Rinsing and repeating. I'm hitting about 14 to 15 reps on my top set here. I would never go more than 20, but 15 to 20 is a pretty good range. And now the last superset here is going to be chest flies and reverse flies. I didn't really feel like training my neck today. That's something that I just tack on to each of my workouts. So on arm day, I'll superset it with wrist extensions. And then typically on chest, back, and legs, what I'll do is I'll just superset that with my standing calf raises. Standing, by the way, is better than seated. So if you are serious about training your calves, opt for standing whenever possible. So reverse flies here, again, this is my last superset between the pec flies and the reverse pec flies. This is an example where you're doing it at the same machine. So unlike with the leg curls and the hack squat, which can be difficult to superset, this is something that there's literally no reason not to. Supersetting just has a number of benefits, but efficiency is not the least of them. And efficiency at the end of the day is king because you only have so much time to allocate towards your training on any given week. Couple of different angles here. Very important to emphasize the eccentric there, right there in that stretched position. It's where you're gonna get most of your gains. And again, emphasizing form over all else. These are my last kind of grinder reps to conclude the workout here. Putting away my gloves here. Just wrapping up a pretty solid workout. I'm feeling pretty good. Just hit chest, back, and legs. And I'm feeling really good. My performance has been really good.
on my top sets. I actually hit 9 reps today on my hack squat, so that was really good at 100 kg. So preserving strength so far during this cut, and just a matter of keeping the ball rolling. And in a couple of days, I'll be doing another arm day. That's been a big one for me. By the way, that's my biggest regret, I think, for the first decade of lifting or so, is just not having a dedicated arm day. Something that I would highly recommend, if that's something that you find is a lagging body part for you and you just want to bring up your arms, right, your triceps, your bis, your forearms, is just have a dedicated day. What I used to do is just push-pull legs, and what I would do is just emphasize the arms later in the workout. So whatever you start your workouts with is going to get priority. It's going to get more of your focus, more of your fresh energy, right? So ideally having an arm day where you can just hammer down on the bis and tris. I'm really appreciating the superset right now. It's allowing me to train and recover from a lot of volume. So that's just one regret that I have and that you could potentially benefit from.
Yeah, that's really my hope, is that you benefit from, a lot of these hypertrophy hacks, if you will, a lot of these insights. I'm not sure if you've ever had this experience before, but oftentimes one thing that I like to do, maybe for me, say this before, is I like to drink on a diluted pomegranate juice solution in between sets. And sometimes I'll just be reflecting and just observing, looking around. And maybe you've had this experience as well. You're seeing a lot of familiar faces. Maybe you've been living in the same area for a number of months and years on end. But it's not just the fact that you see familiar faces. It's for every familiar face you see, you also see a familiar physique. And I know that was my greatest fear starting out, was that I was going to put in all of this work. I can remember getting up at 5:30 in the morning at my college campus before classes to go to the gym when it opened up at 6 o'clock. And my biggest fear was that was going to be all for naught, and that effectively I was going to be rowing as hard as possible, but I was going to be leading to a waterfall and just falling off the edge and just not actually making the progress and going in the direction that I wanted to go. So I really hope you appreciate and can learn from my history, my 10 years in this game of bodybuilding and building a better physique. And if you have any questions, drop a comment down below. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. And until next time, my friend, find your freedom. Peace.